So stories are a way for us to connect with each other and with the places around us, the people around us. It's a way of building relationship. So a tale of our time would be a way for us to connect with what's around us right now and what's the people and places that are around us right now.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Tales of Our Time. This is a show where we discuss the stories that move us, what makes them so meaningful, and why others could or should find meaning in them as well. This is not a spoiler-free show, so bear that in mind as you continue to listen. We tackle books, movies, comics, and more. Where there's a story, there's a reason to read. I'm your host, Amanda Stevens, and joining me today is my guest, Cat Trites. Hi, Kat.
Hello.
How are you today?
I'm a little nervous, but I'm good.
That's okay. A lot of people are nervous when they start. So, would you like to say anything to introduce yourself?
I'm Kat. I've just moved back to Taiwan from Canada, where I went to school.
What did you study?
I studied early childhood education.
Mm-hmm. And what kind of stories do you like to read usually?
I like historical fantasy most of the time. Mm-hmm. I like magical realism.
Oh, can I ask this?
Yes.
You like historical fantasy, so
I do
you have a favorite time period that you like to read? Period and place?
No. I like most of them. Recently there's been a lot of books that have come out with different folk tales connected to historical fantasies.
That's my jam.
Oh my gosh, I love them.
Mm-hmm. So what story have you brought for us today then?
So today I wanted to talk about one of the Song of the Lioness series books by Tamora Pierce. Mm-hmm. It's called In the Hand of the Goddess.
And you were telling me before one of the reasons why you picked this is because, granted, it is young adult fiction, which we've talked about quite a few young adult aimed novels and or other medium. So definitely in the range of things that are very impactful. But you said that this is a series that you read every year.
It is, yeah. Mm-hmm. I read it when I was a child, probably 9 or 10 years old. I read it for the first time. And then it is a book that I have gone back to every year since then. And I have read it. It takes me 6 to 8 hours now to read them because I've read them so frequently.
You kind of memorize them, right?
Yeah, exactly.
I actually love that. I love that kind of background to people's connection to a story. I think it adds a lot of depth to one reason why we find them impactful.
Yeah.
Is the stories to why or how we read them and those rituals we build around it.
Yeah.
So, well, I actually have read a lot of Tamora Pierce's books, and this was a series I never did. There's no reason why I didn't read it. It's just one that never made it into my library basket.
Fair.
So
she wrote a lot of really good children's books.
Yeah. So I think she definitely connected with a lot of kids. And when I was in middle school and early high school, she was one of the top names that kept popping up. So for a lot of people like me who have not read the book, would you mind giving us a short summary of it?
Sure. In the Hand of the Goddess is the second book in the series. So we've already followed Alana through the beginning of her story. In the first book, she goes to study to be a knight in secret. So she's disguised herself as a boy and has gone through the first few years of training. In the second book, she's closer to becoming a knight. She's also much more grown up. So this is a story. The second book becomes a story of her finding her femininity as well as becoming the knight. And I think one of the things that has always drawn me to this book is the overlap there. Mm-hmm. She's doing this this hyper masculine thing of becoming a knight and then also finding her femininity in the story.
So in this world, because I haven't read it, in this world, women are not allowed to become knights, not typically.
Right.
Okay. And so she's trying to navigate that as a young girl who still identifies as a girl, wants to be a girl, but also wants to be a knight.
Okay,
okay. I vibe with it.
Yeah.
So what else happens?
So she meets her goddess. her patroness for the first time. She gets a familiar, a cat named Faithful.
Cute.
We love it. We do love it. Faithful's great. When she's off on this journey thing, she comes back to the palace and she's back in finishing her training. She's also kind of exploring her femininity. Then she has this woman that she has met. Her name is Eleni, and Eleni is kind of helping her. She gets her skirts and dresses and helps her navigate her period. And
oh God,
yeah.
And
the basic feminine aspects. All while this is happening, she starts kind of a relationship with the prince.
Ooh.
Yeah, of course.
It has to be.
It's got to be the prince.
It's got to be the prince.
Exactly. Yeah. So she starts kind of a relationship with the prince, John. And then Duke Roger is, of course, the villain because he's, Duke.
He's not a prince. He's a duke.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And Duke Roger has it out for Prince John and wants to kill him so that he can become
the next in line. Like he's next in line.
Exactly. Okay. Yeah. So she's kind of the only one who knows or who notices that Roger has it out for John, and is
Alana.
Yes.
The main character. And so she's watching him the entire time.
Exactly.
Does he ever make any big moves in this book?
He does. Yeah. At the very end of the book, Alana and Roger have a sword fight.
Ooh.
Yes. Alana wins, but it also is revealed to the court that she is female in this fight. Yeah, exactly.
Is that like where the book ends?
That's pretty much where the book ends.
That's
she
what
leaves.
I was expecting.
She leaves court at that point and kind of like runs away from her problems.
Yeah.
And that's the end of the book.
That's a good teen girl response to being basically, I guess, at that point, mortified.
Yeah.
In front of like everyone that you've tried to impress.
Yep.
And also not just mortified, but like mortified and you broke the law.
Yes.
Oops.
I'm going to run away now.
Yeah. I did that for way, way less consequences.
Oh, 100%.
I ran away.
I'm embarrassed. I need to leave.
It was just someone saying my name too loudly was me like running away as a teenage girl.
Yeah.
So, or like just trying to like look down and not get noticed.
Don't make eye contact.
Absolutely. So, okay. Yeah, I love it. That's a good cliffhanger for like, now everyone knows.
Yeah.
No. So, okay. Thank you. Absolutely. It sounds fun. I see why you like it. It's got all the good highs and lows. Yeah. It's got romance. It's got a familiar, scandal.
Yeah.
What else do teenage girls and adult women need?
Exactly.
So, could you tell us what was your first experience with this story like? You said you read it when you were young.
Yes.
Right?
So I first read it when I was probably 9 or 10.
Mm-hmm.
My mother bought me the books. My mother at that point in time was trying her best to read books with me. Mm-hmm. So like I didn't want to read them together, but she wanted to know what I was reading.
Yeah. So you want to be involved.
Yeah, exactly. So we had 2 copies of the books. Mm-hmm. She was reading one copy and I was reading another.
Yeah. It's cute.
Yeah. And so it was kind of like we were reading it together.
Yeah.
But so my first experience with this story was kind of I loved this character. I loved Alana. And I loved her exploring all of these things that were starting to become relevant in my life.
Yeah, you're kind of a tween.
Yeah.
You're just right before before that, like at 9 and 10.
Periods weren't really a thing for me yet. Yeah. But like...
Wow, that sounds interesting.
Yeah, exactly. You're like, what is she going through? And watching her kind of like trauma response to getting her period for the first time was like, oh, okay. But then
this is how not to react.
Yeah, this is how you don't do periods.
I won't be dying.
Exactly.
That's cool. Love to know that ahead of time.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. But then I can also remember a lot of like mortification because I knew that my mother was reading these books too. Oh, yeah. And so I was like, oh no.
I don't want to talk about this with my mom.
Exactly.
Whatever we do, when mom comes up for like breakfast book club, I'm not talking about this book.
Right. And I love my mother, but my mom is a very scientific minded person. So my like initial birds and the bees discussion was like she brought out her health books.
That was like way more than you wanted.
Yeah.
Back to like teenage girls and mortification responses,
exactly.
like running away. That's funny because my mom did something similar in terms of like our whole family kind of read similar books, and my mom made it a point to make sure that she read the books that we read, if nothing else, just to talk to us about it. Because we had similar tastes. They molded our tastes.
Yes,
probably by
100%,
accident,
100%.
not purposefully, but they did mold our tastes. So we had a lot of the similar like kind of books that we would read as well. But our discussions were a lot more. Well, it's why I started this podcast, because it's a lot more things like this where we'd be like talking about like how stupid people were, or trying to like figure out what each other thought about different characters and strongly disagreeing or agreeing with each other's takes.
Right.
We didn't necessarily have any like big scientific discussions about it. So I think it's fun. It's fun to get like a look into how other people's families like go through stories together.
Yeah.
So why has this book, because you wanted to talk about the series and I asked you if there was one that was most important.
Yes.
So why have this series in a small way and then this book in a large way been so impactful to you?
So the series as a whole was so empowering because Alana is this 5-foot redheaded girl who everyone says she can't do it. Everyone's telling her this is not going to happen for you.
Yeah, I give up.
Yeah. So this is like, even when they think she's a boy, they're like, no, this
You're
isn't
too small to be a boy.
This is not going to work for
enough.
you. Yeah. And so they tell her constantly just to give up, and her persistence is what gets her through. And then book 2 in particular, I love because it is so much about her navigating the line between this like hypermasculine job that she's doing, and her recognizing that she is female and she wants to be female, and then finding that space in between, where she can be both this feminine person doing what is perceived to be a very masculine role.
That like these two parts of herself don't have to be separate.
Exactly.
You can marry them together.
Yes.
Yeah. I think that's also like that might lead into our almost final question, right? Which is why you think other people can find meaning in this as well. I guess my question to you is that the reason, or do you have another reason, kind of like feminizing having power?
Yeah, I think it's a little bit of both there, where I think people enjoy it because it's a genuinely good story, and whether you look any deeper or not, it's fun to watch and listen to and read, depending on how you imbibe your media.
Yeah.
I do think that what makes it so relevant is that kind of discovery of gender, and how we can express ourselves in whatever way is relevant to us. It's okay if you want to dress in pants and do your night thing, then you're great. And you can continue to be that hypermasculine version of yourself, but if you also want to have that hyperfeminine side, it's okay too. And you can blend those two and they go together, and you can express yourself in whatever way you want.
Yeah, I think that is something that especially it has become much more of a topic, a hot topic. That's what I want to say today, is kind of like, you know, different ways to express the gender that you're comfortable with and how to find your identity. And instead of cutting yourself into different shapes or pieces for these different things that you want to do, kind of like, merging those ideas together. So like what I said at the beginning, because when you were talking about it, it reminded me of another discussion I'd had over that Lord of the Rings series that came out.
The Amazon version of it?
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
What was that called?
Rings of Power.
The Rings of Power. And so, and one reason some people had been unhappy with it, and I haven't watched it, so I don't have any context to that, but was the idea that Galadriel before that was a very powerful person, but she was very powerful and like extremely overtly feminine.
Yes.
And so, and that was kind
I
of
love about her.
Right. Well, that was the fun part too, right? Was that like her power was not in opposition to her femininity, but she was like soft. She said something like, I would be beautiful and terrible.
Yes.
Right. But that's the idea, is that you can have both of those things. They can both be true. And she doesn't have to like wear pants and put her hair up to go do those things, regardless of that doesn't change her beauty or anything else. Right.
Yeah.
But it does kind of present a different idea of what we see when we talk about these ideas, like being a knight
Yes.
for Alana, or being like a fighter on the front lines. Like, why couldn't she? She's a magic elf user. Like, why couldn't she walk out in her like flowy
and it's a
robe?
fantasy story. Like, who cares?
But just that idea of like how to merge these ideas in
Yes.
new and interesting ways. And
Yes.
so I think it's fun that you found it in this story too.
Yeah.
So we're almost done. But there's one last question that I'd like to ask you,
Okay.
which is, if you could give, not the series, but if you could give In the Hand of the Goddess by Tamora Pierce, one phrase subtitle of your own, what would it be?
One phrase subtitle
And we could work it out a little bit here too.
has to be something along the lines of like empowering femininity.
I mean, that's good. I kind of like that.
Just leave it at that.
Yeah. Like, do you want it to be like more personal, like empower your femininity, or is it just like a phrase on the book itself?
I don't know, because it's,
Like what rings more true to your experience with that book?
I think in general, just empowering femininity, because it doesn't need to be personal even. It's just the idea that feminine doesn't need to be weak,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. I mean, I just wanted to rant about it. I love it. I'm about it. So that sounds great to me. So In the Hand of the Goddess, empowering
Femininity.
Ooh, sick. That was very good.
Perfect.
So that's actually all the time we have for today. Thank you for joining us on Radio Taiwan International. This has been Tales of Our Time. I'm your host, Amanda Stevens, with my guest, Cat Trites. Thank you for joining us, Cat.
Thank you.
I hope you enjoyed learning about the whole series is called Song of the Lioness, right? So I hope you enjoyed learning a little bit about the Song of the Lioness with us by Tamora Pierce, and specifically In the Hand of the Goddess, Empowering Femininity, a tale of our time. We'll see you next time.